So here we go. I'm Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human. Tonight's wellness workshop, Narcissism edu, the Narcissist in the mirror. You know what I'm going to be for Halloween? I'm going to be a wellness advocate because that whole concept is scary to some people, right? Isn't that
Oh, I like the
narcissism?
reason why.
That's
Because it's
narcissism
scary.
101, not just me, fool. I'm saying the whole concept of personal development is that's kind of narcissism 101 is narcissists not doing their personal development, which we say narcissist, empath. I really don't like either one of those words because I don't think they truly reflect what's going on. But I'm not willing to fight that battle and come up with a new word. But the narcissist isn't really vain in the true sense. They're not doing their personal development. So that's the thing. And I always use this analogy to say that the reason you can't talk to a narcissist, and especially about um, things like personal development and feelings and emotional stuff, is because they're not doing that with themselves. They don't have that relationship with themselves. So we're going to be talking a lot about what's the reflection of that and how are we enabling that is the other thing. What's our part of it? The other hallmark of the narcissist is not taking accountability, right? So that's a huge one because really, without accountability, how do we make change? And how do we make change if everyone's on the same page here? And again, using these terms, I don't like narcissist and empath. I don't like them. And then the empath, I don't think the empath is more sensitive, especially in today's contemporary context. I think that they're just regular. And the balances that we're surrounded with people that are so far away from recognizing energy, which is the first language. There's an energetic imprint before there's ever any kind of word associated with it. So speak whatever language you want, but there's an energetic imprint first. There's an energetic concept, and then there's the word. So we're all energetically aware. Just a lot of people trying to block that out because energy speaks truth, and when people are trying to live in egocentric lives and denial of that natural call to do our personal development, well, truth's going to point at that aspect of ourselves right away. So, the cognitive dissonance part that becomes um, uh, pretty noticeable to say the least, and pretty monumental. The amount of cognitive dissonance in contemporary society is monumental, and especially talking about when it comes to that introspect. So introspect and autonomy. So I called this Narcissist in the Mirror just because I thought it was, a catchy title. Um, but really, we're talking about our autonomy and what are things in our environment that we can do to not perpetuate the things that are trying to take our autonomy and that are trying to take our own volition, that are not conducive to wellness and not conducive to growth. So what are we doing? What are the things that we might be perpetuating that we don't really know? And I am going to use that narcissist empath thing just to make some points. So again, I don't like the terms, but I will use them because I don't want to make up all new terms and have to explain that. I have enough to explain as it is. One of the things with the narcissist, let's say that the classic, and then here's another There's another big disconnect in contemporary society. Just using linear terms like that is is not good for our personal development, because when we talk about narcissists, a lot of times there's an there's an assumption that comes along with that, that there's an empath. So there's a narcissist and the empath, right? And so we, and for this conversation, I'll include myself in there, we are more the empaths and we're talking about the narcissist. So that's kind of how it goes, right? There's the us and them, but really we are the same species, and there's a lot of similarities, really. um I think one of the main ones for to talk about narcissist and empath is that that codependency, the codependency aspect, because codependency is not individual volition, it's not individual growth and scarcity mindset. So if we retrace the beginnings of narcissism, scarcity mindset, and we'll talk about the, personal relationship, because that's the way that people resonate really with it, is that everyone's been in a relationship with a narcissist. So we say, but the scarcity mindset part is the narcissist is afraid of themselves and afraid of doing their personal development, and so tries to create a environment that doesn't have those things. Welcome to America. Got to get that in there, because that's materialism, right? And that's addiction. So everything that fills the void from our personal development, right? Classic addiction, are all things that is keeping the individual from, yeah, what I just say, all the things that are filling the void of personal development, that's the construct that the individual hiding from themselves has created. So yeah, welcome to America. I say America, but contemporary society, Western society, however you want to say it. So there's the environment part, and I don't mean natural environment in this context. I mean our societal environment. I mean our collective consciousness is just immersed in these things that are not conducive to personal development, and is immersed in these fixes and in these replacements for personal development, materialism, and I mentioned addiction. That's the classic example of addiction, which is people using, drugs or alcohol to fill a void, but the void's not, but the only thing that can really fill the void is what belongs there. And if we understand addiction, that's one of the hallmarks of addiction, is that the addict will do everything except for quit the dope, and all the excuses, and everything else is to blame, but they won't do the obvious step. And isn't that what it's like talking to the narcissist? The narcissist has all these other ideas of what's going on, and all these deflections. It's deflection at its finest. It's the art of deflection. And then projection, right? Twisting the narrative. Same thing talking to a classic, I hate to say the word addict or street addict, or I don't know however you want to say it, but someone who's really been on drugs, is everything's a problem except for the drug use, and it's like you got to address the drug use. And so, but you've got to address the personal development. And so for working with addiction, any kind of addiction, including narcissism, including contemporary society, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism, those fall into account. Ideologies also are substitutes to fill that void of true personal development and introspect. So where are we enabling those things? That's a big one right off the bat. What buy-ins in contemporary society are we saying? We're saying narcissist, 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 but here's all the materialistic things. And, here's the voting, and here's the printed currency, and here's the contemporary society that I would say are constructs of that exact narcissistic mindset, right? Scarcity mindset. And the narcissist says conquer. The narcissist wants to control the situation, not have any particular direction, but just control the situation. And isn't that the narrative of large governments? It's just, it says govern in the name, right? And don't be surprised if I jump up really quick and go to grab this slide if it looks like it's tipping over, by the way. So okay, so what are we going to do? Right? We're solution oriented, because that's the other thing about narcissists. And that I'm saying that again, that mentality, no solutions, right? No solutions. So when we talk about all these big major factors in contemporary society, and then
touch the floor, we just watched it.
And we say, all right, Kraig, well, you're saying all these things about like basically every single thing around us, government, money, clocks, materialism. Well, what are we going to do? How do we address that? How do we quit from enabling in an environment that we're in, and we have to engage with these things? Well, the one thing that the narcissist doesn't do is admit that there's a problem, right? And to know these things, because this is part of, and again, lessons from addiction, narcissism, scarcity mindset, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism, addiction, all those things, they're all one in the same. But one of the keys, even in contemporary addiction treatment, we're talking about the first thing you have to do is admit that there's a problem. That's the first thing that we have to do. And when we look at these things on a societal level, and again, understanding you can't look at the narcissist without the environment. Okay. And so here again and again and again and again and again, these things keep coming up. Environment. Have to understand the organism in the environment. What organism? This organism, that organism, the human organism. We have to understand its environment, its natural environment first, right? If we're going to do like I said, business of being human, right? Well, let's look at some science. And this is basically objective thought process and looking at things as how they are, not what we want. And I'll get back to that part. So we have to understand the environment. Yes, the physical environment that the organism evolved in, 100%. But then also, like I said before, the collective consciousness. What's the collective consciousness? So the collective consciousness in contemporary societies is enabling, right? Because it was built from this scarcity mindset and built to bypass natural process. Natural process sometimes can take a while. Introspect is a lifelong journey. If you don't look at it right, someone could mistranslate introspect as taking up too much time. And to do a psychological profile, I think that that's exactly how it translates in most people's mind. And I think we've seen that. I don't think that's going to be new news to anybody, that that's a common narrative. Wow, all this introspect is taking up too much time. My personal development is taking up too much time. It's like, hello, um, that's really what that is life. That is the human growth process, is personal development on a fundamental level. The only reason that seems like a strange foreign concept, um, in which that alone speaks volumes that our personal development would have a negative connotation, but absolutely, is because contemporary society is so immersed in addiction culture and filling the void and chasing materialistic pursuits, chasing ego or egocentric pursuits, and the wants and the ideologies, right? People want to get done quicker. People wanting to go through life fast and to move fast without the process is, again, that's a symptom. That's a huge symptom of the sickness, because to be able to sit back and enjoy the process of personal development and to know that some things are going to take longer than others, and that life is made of challenges. Challenge is how we grow, and we have naturally occurring challenges, human frailties, scarcity mindset, scarcity and insecurity, basically, um, insecurity, um, uh, lack of aptitude, all those things that come into our own, to our own awareness, that maybe we're not quite good enough at this, that, the other thing, life in general. All those are naturally occurring factors. And the the goal is to look at those things and to work with them and to understand ourselves. All these things, all these all these natural human frailties are to get our attention, to look at these things and to what? Build ourselves stronger, to grow ourselves stronger, and to understand who we are and what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, what our personal preferences are, and who we are as individuals. And all that relates to and aligns with our autonomy, our individuality, our own volition, and our energetic flow. When we go through that part of understanding ourselves and growing ourselves in the places that we need to grow, and understanding the understanding things in our environment that we can say, oh, you know what, that's just really not me. That's not for me. I'm not a loud person. I'm more of a quiet person, or vice versa, or whatever. Or I'm not a very physical person. I'm more of a spiritual person. Or I'm not a very emotional person. I'm more of a mental person, or whatever. And to go through all those things. But see, this is that part that the narcissist isn't doing that self-awareness, self-recognition. And even in the and then the big projection in contemporary society, welcome to America, is this hyper individuality. But yet all the people that say, oh yeah, you're free to do what you want, you're free to do what you want, but they're not doing anything unique as individuals. They're not being unique individuals. And that's when we say, colonial, homogenized, domesticated, where there's a huge group of people. Like, you can say this is a group of people and they're all the same, and they're all not really into personal development. They say they're not into feelings. They're not into any of the things that actually make humans humans. All right. We know this group. They fall under political categories and ideologies. Um, and the whole, I'll just put in a little here for the political scene. The whole political scene in general isn't conducive to personal development. You know, it's like you got two choices. Well, two choices is basically no choices. And if we talk to the narcissist, it's like you've got to have an answer. There's got to be an answer. There's got to be a linear projection going on versus just sharing information, right? So all this is just sharing information. Here we're putting the information out. We're saying, you know, hey, this is what I see. All right. We're just comparing notes. Business of being human. This is what I hope people find valuable, and I bring this value to the table. This is what I've seen. This is my experience. So I'm sharing my experience with other people and seeing if, hey, do other people have the same experience? And when we get into that introspect, again, that's the another hallmark of narcissism is not sharing that introspect. Well, because they don't have anything to share, right? So when we start talking about our feelings, the narcissist has that insecurity because they don't have anything to bring to the table because they haven't done that, right? So where are we? What's the point where we're waiting for the narcissist, right? A lot of people get stuck in these relationships, wanting the narcissist to change, hoping the narcissist change, pointing the finger, pointing the finger, pointing the finger. But if we really understand what's going on, we're asking someone to do something that they don't have the skills to do, or that their skills are growing so slowly that we can't wait, at risk of our own personal development, right? So the narcissist in the mirror is also quashing our own personal development in all these ways. There's a big difference between helping, what do they say, a hand up, not a hand out. There's a big difference, and sometimes a really fine line between helping and enabling. And you know, as a wellness advocate, that's something that I will share my personal experience. That's something that I think about on the regular. Um, and we can't make people grow. We can't make people heal. Okay, did you catch that part? We can't make people grow or heal or even understand. The only thing we can do is we can share information, and then really the chips fall where they fall because we don't know what the universe is doing with us. We don't know what our real path is. We don't know what the person next to us, what their path is. But see, that's that parallel, um, for the narcissist that wants a specific thing to happen, that needs something to go a certain way and is insecure about the outcome. So being in a relationship with narcissist, someone caught up in Americana, for lack of better terms, in contemporary society, what's the part where we're enabling and not doing our own personal development? Because again, the narcissist is afraid of their personal development. So then that's that feeling we get where it's not a very good environment for someone to develop, especially emotionally. So where's the part where we're quashing our own emotion voluntarily? Whenever we're in, well, to an extent, right? There's nuances, I understand. But when we're sitting waiting for someone that's stuck in their caught up in their own scarcity mindset, that's doing the same thing that the narcissist is doing. So the narcissist looks like the narcissist doesn't want us to grow. But that's just a perception from the other scarcity mindset of the empath. Like I said, I don't really like these terms, but we're using them anyways. The narcissist, what the narcissist really is trying to do, and not consciously, right? The narcissist is trying to escape their own personal development, is trying to avoid themselves. But if someone's trying to get them to tune into themselves, that's not what they're trying to do. And that's why we feel it's so important to get people to tune into themselves. It's important to get people to tune into themselves, so then it makes for a better environment for others to tune into themselves. And those of us that fall on the side of wanting to tune into ourselves and wanting to grow is super important. But that's that balance where we can't be enabling, and when we're enabling, we're holding ourselves back. There's a very fine line between having good constructive conversation and playing the fool, you know because at the end of the day, everyone's looking for that security, right? And that security, but that a lot of times is a big misinterpretation. Most of security comes um, with our personal um, confidence in our ability to work with change and to go through new things. But in the context of the relationships, it's still, you know, everyone meets somebody and, yeah, this is good, this is good, this is good, this isn't good. The classic, right? I mean, geez, probably that's what most relationships are to, to one extent or the other. Congratulations to everybody that, hasn't had that experience. I bet everyone can relate to it, though. It's just life. That's how things are, and there's so many nuances there. But at the end of the day, what I was saying is that the narcissist just wants someone there, and they want that attention and they want that validation. So, but isn't that what the empath wants also? Is that attention and that validation? Both parties want validation. Um, and so that's something that I thought about when I was thinking about this narcissist in the mirror. It's like both parties want validation. Both parties want that, or are looking for that security. The thing is, and those are naturally occurring things, of course. The thing is in the narcissist, when it goes really beyond the naturally occurring scarcity mindset, and we're all going to have our doubts um, every so often, and challenges and new challenge and that sort of thing. But when there's ideologies, and when people want something, when I say want and egocentric pursuits, I say want without context. So when people want the security of, say, a big government, but don't have the context, and aren't really looking at that whole concept with critical lens and being objective about it. And case in point, since it's voting season, I'll put my 2 cents in here. Everyone, oh, America, 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 America is like, yeah, but it doesn't work. It's not a really functioning system. It's not a real functioning system. It's an ideology. It doesn't recognize human habit or habitat in the most rudimentary forms. Um, yeah, habitat, the environment that the species lives in. So you got to take care of that. Habit is you can't mandate, yeah, you can't mandate wellness, you can't mandate behavior. So how do laws ensure freedom? That's those two things don't make sense. So it's important and we understand how people are relating to these things, if someone's really stuck in, you know, colonialism, capitalism, that's not going to be a, ultimately, that's not going to be a healthy individual because they're relating to these things, they're relating to these constructs. Narcissist will build an environment, has this construct, creates this construct to where they look like they're okay, just like the addict. They, there's this, there's this narrative so that where that they're okay. And then, again and again and again and again, welcome to America. America has done this marketing ploy, sold the sizzle, not the steak, right? Of the freedom. And yeah,
We all gotta have our faces on something.
trick or treat.
Gotta do this for the kids.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That was good. We were talking about false narratives in America, and the Joker came on, right?
That was hilarious.
I know they know.
I know.
um, so yeah, I was just bashing on America, and I say America because that's what I'm familiar with, but it's all colonial governments, right? Govern, mandated behavior. Mandated behavior is, well, that's narcissism. It's, you have to do this or else, is just, that's the opening. That's their opener, is you have to do this or else, and everything's okay as long as you're in light. So also, creating awareness, we have to have this conversation. This is just the objective lens to look through. We can't say narcissist without the environment. We can't say human without the environment. We can't say human habit without the environment, both the collective consciousness, the natural environment, and also these habits and the scarcity mindset. So by understanding these things, having these longer conversations, right? This is engaging in the process. This is engaging in the process of understanding, right? If we talk to the narcissist, this is the part right here. Pay attention. This is the look in the mirror part. When we talk to the narcissist is not interested in understanding. Okay. So what we want to do is make sure that we are engaged with our understanding. So super important. The narcissist doesn't want to have a long conversation, want to have a long conversation about how we feel and how we feel relates to this and all these emotional aspects and the nuances and how we get from where we are to sustainable cultures and what's everybody's back to sustainable cultures. What are the steps that everybody can take in actually understanding these things and actually understanding human behavior? So obviously, I'm an advocate for long conversations, understanding, and that's what we've got. And back talking about our naturally occurring human frailty and that scarcity mindset and all these challenges, and that so we have infinite amount of challenges as individuals, and that's something that contemporary society doesn't have a very good grasp on. We were talking earlier about the tendency for contemporary society, of course, individuals in it, right? That will, instead of embracing these naturally occurring challenges and human frailty, they'll fill it with egocentric pursuits, with wants, and with quick fixes. And fix meaning, the classic sense, back to addiction again, a beer, a line, or not just a beer, but, too many beers, alcohol, you know, too much, too much medicine, ideologies, instead of really understanding energy and spirituality on an energetic, on an experiential. There's books. People say, oh, well, it's in the book. Well, the book says this, the book says this, the book says this, but that's a disconnect. That's not being, that's not being in the present. Instead of understanding how cultures are growing, cohesive cultures and healthy cultures depends on the individual recognizing the value of cohesive culture. And you can't mandate that. So it's back to understanding again. So understanding, understanding. And we have a saying, it's understanding is the soil, idea is the seed, intention is the water, action is the sunlight. So we're always, the first thing we need is soil, lots and lots of soil. If we're going to have lots and lots of ideas, we have to have lots and lots of understanding. So growing our understanding around all these concepts, because people want to say, oh, narcissist this, narcissist that, narcissist this, they're doing this, they're doing this. That's bullshit. That's not doing anything other than identifying perhaps behavioral patterns. And I think that Gabor Mate, if people don't know who Gabor Mate is, Google it. Super good at wellness, emotional intelligence, trauma, super good at those things. But Gabor Mate would also say that bear with me. He would say something and it had to do with what I was saying. Yep, forgot what I was talking about. First time, hey, it's live, right? What was I talking about, Gray?
You were talking about Gabor Mate
I know,
and
but
something that he says.
I know that part.
Last time I'm gonna help you. No, you were talking about referring to him because you were saying about contemporary, there goes all the soap. Contemporary what are you saying about, see, now you made me have a brain fart.
No one knows.
You better remember because I don't remember.
Shantae, what was I saying?
I just along for the ride. I just listening. You said somebody Demonte's as far as I know.
Everyone remembers the part about
Sorry.
Gabor Mate. I was going to say that Gabor Mate talks about whatever I was talking about. Gabor Mate says something along the same lines. Geez, dang it! Completely lost it there.
We have a question. How do you know if you are, capital R, narcissist, or do we all have narcissistic tendencies at times?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is that we're all in this. We all have, or I was not saying I was getting there, but yeah, we're all in this construct. So where are we perpetuating these things? So, and it's a grayscale, and we're using these terms narcissist, empath, but it's an infinite grayscale. There's no set thing for, our, where we're at on our human development, in our human evolution.
It truly is, because sometimes because we had said you're born into it, you're growing. Just something that we mentioned with
Right.
You're in the womb and you're already, I guess if you can want to say, you're already cooking in this environment. Like from when we're in our mom's belly, like seriously,
Well,
because there's
yeah,
so
well,
much.
that, and I mean, if we say contemporary society, aka colonialism, um, that's been generational trauma, and then generational trauma for, for everyone, some demographics for longer periods of time than others. But now, no one's immune. We've all been subjected to it and immersed in it. But when, that buying into Americana and that false, these false narratives, this kind of thing, and that's the construct. Um, that's one of that's mirrors the construct that the narcissist would create, that, hey, I'm doing this for the good of everything. I'm doing this for the good of everything. And like, I know which way to go. I know how to do it. You just don't know. You just don't understand. And that thing that just, that, that false narrative, that's always pushed out, that's that projection that's pushed out on the others to make sure that we're not perpetuating that, because we want understanding, right? We don't want to just label, and maybe this is what I was saying. We don't want to just label that there's a narcissist, there's a narcissist, there's a narcissist, and I'm got nothing to do with it, because we are all on that spectrum, to say that, or at least very susceptible to it and affected by it, because we're in the society that we're at. So, the narcissist says, oh, it's everything else, it's everything else, it's everything else. And but the empath, the other side says, oh, it's them, it's them, it's them, it's them. And then the contemporary government model says, well, it's either the Democrats or the Republicans. Um, that's bullshit. How, it can't just be, it's just not that simple. That's a label, that's a huge label, and it gets back to this thing about using these labels, and how um how challenging it is to grow wellness and use these labels at the same time. We're saying narcissist, narcissist, narcissist. I had 124 mentions in my notes, but it's that infinite grayscale, and we're perpetuating things too. And so we always just got to have this conversation, to have this longer conversation. Where are we perpetuating these things? Where are we enabling these things? And from our blame, that blame game is exactly narcissistic, narcissistic characteristic.
I feel like I feel like if we could just stop using the I word, I think we would have more communication, cooperation, and more teamwork, because there is really no I in what we are subject to or what we need to do to move forward. It should always be a we. And I guess that's kind of what I feel like when we talk about narcissism. It's because it's always I.
So I got part of that. Your audio is really bad though, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving. But I was just thinking like how we could, if we could try to implement using the we word instead of I.
Yes. Yes. That we have, we have more in common with the garden variety narcissist than we do the birds and the fish and the worms and the bugs and all those other things, right? We have more in common. We still, as humans, we still have more in common with, most of the shitheads in the world than everything else around us, because that's our species. Um, you know, but yeah, and I think that to understand some of these common behaviors is that part to, we don't want to separate ourselves. And that's another narcissistic behavior, is to draw this us and them, and to separate and create walls between them, and the whatever they don't like is dehumanized. And if you're not able to enable them, then you're dehumanized, then you're part of that, then you don't matter. And that whole mental attitude, that's narcissism. And narcissism, colonialism, capitalism. So to make sure that we don't get to the point where we are perpetuating that they don't matter. And that's a huge thing. Now, at the same time, growing boundaries so we're not getting run over by those things. So that's a super important thing, the difference between walls and boundaries. And I think we did a workshop on that, growing healthy boundaries. But these boundaries, so that where, and especially Shantae, I know um, that working with people that are, really traumatized or have other organic impairments, to be there for someone, but also still have boundaries, but not walls. So it's super important that people know that you're present and fully present and engaged while you say, okay, I'm here, but like, we can't be doing this too much. We can't be going back over the same subject all the time.
I
As
feel
where,
like I've sorry.
go ahead.
I sorry about that. I just feel like what I've learned today about boundaries is it's love. It really is love, having that mutual respect for each other's space.
Yeah. And that might be hard to swallow when you're dealing with an especially challenging individual, but, but to love ourselves first, to love ourselves. And when we truly love ourselves, we love everything around us. And I think that that's a huge conduit for understanding. So love's just not mushy, you know, what the fuck ever fantasy. It's got it's got autonomy. It's got I'm not gonna forget again, don't worry. Um it's kind of like autonomy. It's got accountability. Love has accountability, and autonomy, and our own volition and parameters that we have to work within. And some of those parameters are self-preservation, right? So there's this whole thing when we're aligned, when we're really aligned with the big picture, when we're aligned with our wellness, our parameters say, well, in order for me to go forward and help more people, I can't have myself get stepped on too much. I'm okay
Yeah.
with a few bruises. And
Mhm.
no one's going to get out of this unscathed, right? We're all going to have some pretty gnarly scars. But to understand that concept is that, we can't just run away and go live up in the woods off of, uh, morels and deer for the rest of our lives, and go do that without engaging the sickness um, that's overtaken society. So the only way to grow through everything, the only way to make change happen is through real understanding. And that's a art. And it's and to me, the cognitive growth and healing part, to have these longer conversations, to understand human behavior, to understand, what's going on with us, what's going on with other people, and to understand that scarcity mindset aspect, and to say, okay, well, this is naturally occurring thing. This is scarcity mindset. Our human frailties are naturally acute, are naturally are naturally occurring human frailties are there for a reason. There are natural challenges, right? So make sure we got to have good relationship with challenge, right? Embracing the challenge. We did that workshop. We did the words work and serious. I think we did that workshop too. These things are super important to meditate on and keep in our understanding, and keep refreshing and growing our understanding of those things, because our challenges and that natural human frailty, we can't have a negative relationship with those things. And one of my favorite recent things is, why aren't our challenges abundance? If, to look at how we grow, we have to have a lot of challenges because that's how we grow. Again, we can't just to avoid those things is the contemporary society is the narcissist. That's like the hallmark of narcissism is avoiding their natural frailties, right? And all the bravo and all the inflated ego and all those kind of things, all that no fear, all the hyper masculinity, toxic masculinity, whatever you want to call it, um, the amosexual, the hyper uh um artillery mentality, where that's the first thing, that sign of aggression is like the first thing, that posturing, that intimidation is the first thing, which anyone knows, like basic psychology, that's pointed to insecurity. Well, that's insecurity um because they haven't done their own personal development. It's classic. If someone's first way to um solve a problem, which it's not even that, is the threat of violence, then that's insecurity. That doesn't work. Oh, by the way, that's contemporary government, is you do this or you're threatened. um the same with religion. You do this or you go to hell. That's not personal development. That doesn't reflect anything about personal development or human behavior, because we don't resonate with that. We know that that's not right. We know that that's not the way to grow. We know that our own volition needs to be involved. Whatever we do, we have to have our own volition um, engaged fully. All these things, as we're having these conversations, there's all these things that are enabling that quote unquote narcissism, is enabling that lack of understanding, right? In the personal relationship between the narcissist and the empath doesn't feel understood. Well, yeah, there's lack of understanding. There's a huge lack of understanding, but we can't just put it on the individual when it's a societal thing at this point. So we have to understand the society, individuals in the society. The individual is part of the society. The individual makes up the society. And then, of course, again, to where's the solutions? Because in contemporary society, and especially there's a um, huge, let me think of that word. I'm missing my words tonight. Huge conspiracy theory. And like I don't put anything past anything, but the problem with conspiracy theory is that there's no solutions. If you talk to someone that's a conspiracy theorist, it's like, just this is what is. And any challenge has to have a solution attached to it, any real challenge. Otherwise, you're not looking at the real challenge. So that's an important thing to identify our real challenges. Is there a solution? Can we find a solution? Our solution to societal ills is introspect, is understanding, is our personal development. That is the solution. And oh, by the way, that's where it stems from, lack of personal development. So also to do the cognitive thought process part is that it only makes sense that now we're having to do personal development to get back on track, to understand our species, to understand human behavior, and this ideology about mandating human behavior, and to see this pattern recognition between this narcissist, scarcity mindset, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism, all these things. And with those three, narcissism, colonialism, capitalism, they all have that same, the want without context. So watching our wants and the ego, and I think we did a ego workshop not too long ago also. What are the things that when our wants take over as individuals, what are the things that if we do our own psychological profile, right? So we got to use that mirror. We got to use the mirror. What's our own psychological profile? What's our energetic imprint of ourself, right? When we're in the relationship with a narcissist, we feel that lack of emotional wellness. This is not a place where I can grow. All right, we feel that from them. What do we feel from ourselves? Here's the big one, right? Everyone we feel this from other people. Where are we really using that mirror and saying, where are the parts where I want something that's an egocentric? It's not really in line with what our core instinct, with what our universal path is telling us to do. Classic scarcity mindset and, narcissist empath, just using this because everyone's had the experience that relationship, to want to be in the relationship, to overstay in the relationship due to scarcity mindset. That's a want. To hang on to Americana and that concept of Americana, even though it clearly doesn't work and it clearly doesn't pass any of the most rudimentary cognitive thought process. Again, habitat doesn't recognize those, doesn't recognize own volition, mandating behavior for freedom. It's a false narrative. Capitalism, sacrificing things intrinsic to life and natural value for printed currency, which could be made out of anything. Those things don't work. They're not functioning. So that scarcity mindset, where are we hanging on to those things? Where is the part that we're just, I just need a couple more bucks. I just need to, vote this way. We just need this person in office instead of this person in office. We got to work with those things, but we don't have to have them consume us. We have to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. Most of us, I'd rather be out foraging my own wild food, but it's not practical at this point in my life. Someday, hopefully. But to understand that and to not be so anxious about acknowledging these things that don't work. Acknowledge there's a problem. That's addiction. Do we have the capacity to look at these things and say, look, this for sure doesn't add up. This for sure doesn't add up. This for sure doesn't add up. And to take that on our own volition and say, okay, this is what we've got. I think the reason that people don't do that, the reason that people cling to their prefab religions and their prefab governments and their monetary system is, that is narcissism. That's a scarcity mindset. That's the want. We want these things, what we want is the truth not to be true. We want to keep going business as usual and hope that things will magically change. But that's probably not a good strategy for an organism that has the capacity to engage in objective thought process. Not to mention, the objective thought process is the only reason that the organism, aka the human, got to where it is so far. So to identify what's working and what's not working is just critical. And when we're not doing that, we are enabling. We are enabling on a societal level, and we are enabling on an individual level. If we're enabling on a societal level, we can't come back to the individual and say, oh, narcissist, narcissist, narcissist. If we're saying, oh, if we just vote this way, and if I have enough money to do this, and all these materialistic things, then you can't come back and say, oh, well, this person's a narcissist if you're fully engaged mentally in those ideologies, in those false narratives. Any other questions
No,
or
got some
comments?
live comments on just how, people really enjoy your intelligent conversation, emotionally intelligent conversation.
Trying.
Some thumbs up on that. And positive comments.
Good. Yeah, emotional intelligence and recognizing that as a thing, which of course a large entity can't do. We have to recognize each other as individuals, as emotionally intelligent, and give people the capacity to grow. That's another thing with the labeling, of saying narcissist. Well, don't we want them to grow? I mean, that's the whole goal, right? If we can facilitate growth instead of enabling addiction. And this is a phrase I like to say: we're always either enabling addiction or facilitating growth throughout the day, throughout the conversation, every interaction we have with everybody. We're either facilitating growth or enabling addiction. And that's a key point of consciousness. And if we talk about meditations and these tools and these tips and these tricks and all these things that we add into our mental ecosystem, what are some of these things? And then I think that's a real easy one to embrace, to understand. So, when we're going throughout our life, we have these things, and I think that understanding we're either facilitating growth or enabling addiction. So complacency is enabling. Not saying anything is enabling. Those are important parts to understand. Of course, the nuance being, if we can get good at it, to say the right thing at the right time and to not waste our time. Some people, you know, I'll just, so some people, if I'm out somewhere on a job or something at the day job, and one of the kids starts talking about, money, and, well, how are, you know, basically saying, how's the government going to pay for this? And I just say, we print that shit, right? And just leave it at that. Like, money is not the problem. That's not a problem. That's a inanimate object. That's not the key problem. The problem is its use and misuse and abuse. So that's super important to understand. And then with that, we get back into individuals. And so again, with the blame game, because again, that's the narcissist and that's addiction. Watch out for that blame game. How much do we blame? Oh, the government, right? I'm saying it all the time. I'm saying America, 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 right? But that's not a place to put blame. That is a representative. Because how do we change these things? We change these things through individuals. All those entities are made up of individuals. All the big corporations, capitalism, they're all made up of individuals. It only takes a relatively small percentage of individuals to really make change. When there's truth involved and when there's the leverage of what is involved, right? Here's our own volition. Here's our own autonomy, taking our autonomy back, regaining and regrowing our power and how we can create change. right? Because narcissistic constructs aren't conducive to change. So what do? We want to create change. We grow that within ourselves, and knowing these things, not to place blame. We want that autonomy. When we place blame, we lose our autonomy, we lose our power, we lose our volition. When people say, oh, well, it's the big governments, boom, you just threw away your angle. And you threw it out to big governments. Guess what? They're all LLCs, limited liability. I mean, like it says it in their names. They're not into taking responsibility. Oh, whoop, narcissism, pattern recognition, right? It's that pattern recognition bell go off between narcissism and capitalism. Lack of accountability, lack of taking responsibility as an entity, right? And then see the construct. That's where it goes from the individual narcissist creates these constructs, these communities of narcissists, and then labels them governments and businesses. All right. And now business doesn't have to be like that. And of course, they're false narratives. They're not conducive to defending people in the true sense, or facilitating growth. Even better yet, it's false narrative. And then the businesses, it's not fair trade. It's just a mask to get what they want without context. Right? Business. I'll do this quick thing about business, because business is important. And first, everything trades with everything. Our first commerce, our energy is our first commerce. And I heard something the other day that I really liked also, is that it said time, but time in our lifespan, our lifespan, our human lifespan, our individual lifespan is our commerce. Spend it wisely. Energy is our commerce. Spend it wisely. Know how much energy we have. Act like we don't know how much lifespan we have. Spend those things wisely. But everything trades with everything, and so there's business models naturally occurring, and people have traded forever, and it's one of those core hallmarks of humanity. And I will say that business or trade has facilitated such hallmark. Easy for me to say. I'll say it again. Business or trade has facilitated the growth of such hallmarks of humanity as communication, teamwork, leadership, process development, bridging of cultures, understanding of value. So business is creating something of value and trading it for something of fair compensation. Here's the catch. If an entity is taking something of value and not giving fair compensation, that entity is not doing business. They are just using the term business as a guise to plunder. So super important thing to separate out in contemporary society. Just like understanding that you can't mandate freedom. Those are the threats. That's compliance. That's mandating compliance. It's not mandating freedom. But what's America? It's the free, right? Freedom. Oh yeah, America, you can do anything you want. Just another false narrative. Let's see here. Let me check my notes a little bit here. Yep. Energy is our first commerce. The narcissist has a capitalistic mindset. Instead of a reciprocal energy exchange, it's more of a get and take, right? Get, take. And that's the American way. And isn't that same energetic imprint that we get from narcissist, and then most people in society are looking at what do they get from the relationship versus having a truly reciprocal relationship. So do we need to be looking for fair exchange and fair trade in our energy? Absolutely. Speaking of trade, that's another one. Our energy exchange has that model and has that, I say trade, traditional, reciprocal, authentic, directional, and empowering. Make sure that all these things are happening in our relationships, and we can tell that not so much by the words. That, remember, those words are just indicators. Those words are just placeholders for the actual energetic exchange. Check the energetic exchange. Is the energy that we're trading with the people that we're engaged with, is it reciprocal, authentic, directional, empowering? Are those actions of the people that we're engaged with doing all those things? Oh, here's the challenge question. Does the empath have emotional intelligence, or does it just recognize emotion? Because the classic thing, and I think this is just important because it's a common conversation, is that the empath sits there and does the blame game. But if the empath knows what's going on, isn't it the empath's duty to change the situation? Because the person in the place of the narcissist doesn't know, clearly doesn't know, even though they'll say they know. And they'll flip that narrative, but like there's a chance there's a place that we need to get that shit straight. And like 100%, no matter what someone's saying, we got to be able to say, okay, well, that's not actually what's going on. And look at how far off base that is in America. Look at how many false narratives and just plain ass made up shit is going on. And why is it still going on? Because the collective, I'll tell you why. Glad that I asked that question for you.
You
Because
asked
the
the question.
collective is so full of shit themselves, they can't call bullshit on something else. The collective is, in contemporary society, is so full of shit and so much perpetuating so much bullshit in their own that they can't say that the extreme level of bullshit is bullshit.
So they can't call the bullshit
They
the
can't call the
bullshit
bullshit because they're perpetuating too much bullshit themselves. Well, we sitting back here, we could say, "Oh, that's bullshit. That's obvious bullshit." Why is this even getting airtime? Why are people purveying bullshit getting airtime at all? That's a symptom. That's not those people's problem. You know, those are one in millions that are perpetuating bullshit on the air for everyone to see it. It's all the enablers, right? Every one of these shitheads that we see in politics, every one of them passed through a whole bunch of people that enabled them to get there. Every one of them. It's got a ton of people that have had personal interactions with them that know damn well that they're full of shit and they're not, they shouldn't have a platform, but they do, because the people that see that are also doing it. They're also, oh, America, capitalism. They also haven't done enough introspect. They haven't really taken that introspective journey. So there's the enabling part again. And it's not these few individuals or the individual that we might say is a real bad outlier when it comes to purveying in bullshit. It's the society as a whole, and it's the people that are pointing their finger without saying, oh, where am I enabling this? Where's the people that said, hey, look, this person that really made voice and say, hey, look, no offense, but this person is not someone that should be in this place. They've all enabling is, again, letting those wants take over and bowing to those superficial wants, those egocentric wants that, oh, well, it's just business and I'll do something a little bit sketchy because I'm in business with this person. And, I won't say anything bad about this person because, they're part of my organization or whatever. But all that's all enabling. The trauma bond between the empath and the narcissist. That empath thing, it's really easy to sit back and say, oh, well, I'm just trying to, I'm trying to help. It's really easy to sit back and say, I'm trying to help, or I'm trying to be understanding, or, everybody needs love or whatever. How many excuses do we make to the point when we know we're trespassing on ourselves? How many excuses do we make before we say, look, this really isn't right? Or when I say really isn't right, really isn't working. How many excuses are there before we say this is not functioning? Our autonomy depends on our ability to look in the mirror and do our own self-examination and to embrace our challenges on a core level and know ourselves not from what we wear, and for sure not from our contemporary societal alignments, i.e., what political faction, what part of the planet we come from, or whatever. We're first we're organism on the planet, then we're human. And stop right there and be human. And there's a mirror, look in the mirror. And I do mean that figuratively, because there's one more catch, right? No shortage of challenge. Don't forget, challenge is abundance. This is job security. If you're working on yourself, this is job security, right? It just depends on how you look at it. The mirror in contemporary society provides a clear reflection, but our energetic imprint takes some more translation, and it takes us making sure we have accurate translation. So what's the energetic imprint of ourselves? That is the actual mirror. That is our actual understanding. That's our place of understanding. I'm Kraig Smyth, MyBizGuide, Business of Being Human. That was tonight's wellness workshop. Narcissism edu, the narcissist in the mirror. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. And thanks everyone for hanging with us on a Friday. And thanks, Facebook. Appreciate you. We're going to sign off of Facebook now and get into the live Zoom after party. So if you're on Facebook, you might want to think about joining the Zoom after party, joining Zoom to the links to the after party.